never going to the gym again. I will never show my face in the gym again. The most embarrassing fucking shit happened to me! I decided I wanted to go to the gym, you know, be productive, be healthy. Should have just stayed in bed eating a bag of Cheetos, but no, I wanted to be productive. Finished doing laundry and I just went and I grabbed a t-shirt and sweatpants and got in the car, drove to the gym. Get to the gym, I start working out. I'm using the elliptical that's in the middle of the room and the gym's packed. Like 35 minutes into my workout and I'm just getting a whole bunch of people staring at me. I'm like, why are you staring at me? Like, do you recognize me from TikTok? Is that it? Is that I'll sign autographs later? But no, that's not why they were staring at me. Then all of a sudden, while I'm like, as you can see, sweating profusely, this lady comes up to me and she's like, sweetie, you might want to go to the bathroom. Why? I don't have to pee. She's like, you have something stuck on your pants. I what now? Thinking I'm getting recognized on TikTok? No. I had a fucking neon blue underwear stuck to the back of my ass. For about 35 minutes. In the middle of the gym. Excuse me while I go die in a hole now. Thank you.
Part 2 of how I'm in love with my sister's boyfriend and he likes me too because he kissed me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So after flirting back and forth through DM, I finally sent him a cute naughty picture. I mean, not so naughty, but a little naughty. And that's when he sent me one back. Then he sent me a text message saying that he wished he had met me before he met my sister. And I told him I felt the exact same way. The following day, he came to visit my sister like he usually did. My sister had COVID at the time, so he would come every single day. At this point, my sister's quarantine was almost over. So I knew I either had to act fast or talk to him and tell him that we couldn't take things further. My parents had decided to go to our lake house, so I knew I had the house all to myself. And my sister couldn't come out of her room, so he and I were basically alone in the house. That's when he asked me if we could talk. We went to the backyard so that my sister wouldn't hear us, and he confessed that he really liked me, but he didn't know how to feel about it. He also told me he felt really guilty, and I totally understood him. He asked me what I thought we should do, and I just didn't have an answer. We just stared at each other for a second, and then he kissed me. And it was the most magical kiss of my entire life.
My teacher won't say my name correctly for 2 years. When I finally stand up for myself, it leads to her getting fired. Here's a little bit of background. So I have a semi-common Hispanic first name and I'm living in the Midwest United States. People don't always pronounce it correctly. Generally speaking, I think of myself as being fairly flexible with how others pronounce it. If it's our first time meeting, I will say how it is pronounced, and as long as they get somewhat close to the pronunciation after a couple of meetings, I will let it slide and acknowledge their efforts. If we've met multiple times and they still clearly make no effort to pronounce my name correctly, that's when I start to take offense. This wasn't always the case though. Before I used to just acknowledge whatever people would call me, and after dealing with some identity issues in my teen years, like many of us do, and going to counseling, I learned to fully embrace my identity, including the correct pronunciation of my name, and was taught to stick up for myself as well. The story takes place when I was starting that transition. In my teen years while attending high school, during my freshman and sophomore year, I had a teacher that was a stickler for the rules. One of those teachers that had been teaching for 40 plus years and had her system down and wasn't going to let anyone change her way of doing things. On the first day of class, she handed out her rules and explained them to us. One of these rules included the attendance policy. Every day, right after the bell rang for the class to begin, she would go through attendance, read off your name, and when we heard our name, we were to say present. Not here, not yes, or anything else. We were to say present. Not sure why she was a stickler for that, but whatever. I had this teacher for 2 years, and for almost 2 years she would pronounce my name incorrectly. What was more confusing is she would pronounce it incorrectly in different ways each time. During attendance, she would get to my name and pronounce it incorrectly. I would then say present and my name is pronounced OP. She would then just go on to the next name, making no acknowledgement to what I just said. I would also like to add that our school was on the smaller side, with classes averaging around 80 to 90 students per grade, and most teachers only focused on 1 or 2 grades. So the average teacher would probably have to work with 100 to 150 students, and by my sophomore year, every other teacher has started pronouncing my name correctly or had already pronounced my name correctly from the beginning. It was during this time that I started developing the aforementioned identity issues and started going to counseling. The counselor pushed me to embrace who I was more and to stick up for myself as well. So that's exactly what I did. Cue malicious compliance. Close to the end of my second year with this teacher, I had had enough and also built up enough self-confidence to do something about it. The next day she went through attendance and just completely butchered my name, so I said,
"My husband wants to close the marriage now that other men found me attractive. I've already stated that we never had sex for years due to lack of attraction from his part, which led to him suggesting that we open the marriage. When I found Jay, however, my husband was suddenly attracted to me. We have been having sex regularly. I loved it because I love my husband and it was just wonderful feeling desired by him again. Even though deep down I knew he wasn't attracted to me as much as he was just panicking that I'm starting to sleep with others. And I was right. Last Tuesday, I was supposed to meet Jay again. So Monday evening, as per our agreement, I told my husband about it. He was so surprised. Why do you want to meet him when I've slept with you every night this past week? I just looked at him and told him that I didn't understand what he meant. We had an open marriage and I've been very clear that I didn't want to close it again. I felt happy and content for the first time in years and he had been sleeping with others for a year without any problems. Why now? Well, he told me that he hadn't been with anyone in almost 2 weeks because he thought that I was enough. So he didn't understand why he wasn't enough for me. I asked him why the sudden interest in me and my body. He has never been so interested before and he has never been so passionate and attentive. Not even when I was 10 years younger and more beautiful. He said he always found me beautiful and he didn't know why he's more attracted now. I told him that I knew why. Because suddenly you couldn't picture someone else with your wife and suddenly I was more than a wife and mother in your eyes. I was a sexual being. He tried to deny it but I didn't budge. I told him that he wasn't seeing other women because he was too busy trying to keep me at bay. The moment I was under his control again, he would lose interest and start seeing other women. Hopefully when I'm pregnant because in your mind I would be less appealing to men. He was so angry about this and he told me that it was all in my head. He threw the dinner plate across the room and left. He spent the night outside. The next day when he was calmer, I told him that I didn't want to close our marriage. I loved him very much, but I was miserable without sex. I believed in my heart that the both of us could have the cake and eat it too. We could have our beautiful life with our children and careers, family and friends, and our hobbies and trips and dinner dates. Everything that we loved and cherished about each other and active sex lives with like-minded people. I told him that he didn't seem to be as cool with my pics as I was all these months with all the women he showed me. Maybe I could be more discreet so the men I met stayed faceless in his mind. Maybe it was easier. He didn't answer me. Or we could go our separate ways. To this, he was starting to get agitated again, so I asked him to calm down and listen. He couldn't just demolish my kitchen and walk away every time I said something that wasn't to his taste. I couldn't and wouldn't go back to how things were before opening our marriage, so he either wanted this or we could get a divorce. I asked him to think about it. Thursday, when he got back from work, I had already changed and ready to go out. He didn't say anything. When I got home, he was crying and saying that he couldn't do this anymore. I told him that we only have one solution then and it was divorce. He said that I was brutal. You're not the beautiful, kind woman that I married anymore. He hasn't been home this weekend. He just called every night to say goodnight to the children. He just texted me once. Are you in love with Jay? No. Is he better than me? No. Are you going to start dating him if we divorce? I didn't answer.
When I was in 6th grade, I went to go visit my little cousins at their house. Their house was right on the edge of these woods. And the woods were really thick, and our parents always told us not to go there. And one time I asked my mom why, and she said because when people do bad things, they sometimes go and hide in the woods. I was staying at my cousin's house for a week on this one trip. And whenever I was bored, I would go look out the window and watch the woods. Usually it was pretty boring, and I would just be staring at trees. But one day it was like 5 p.m. and the sun was setting, so it was getting dark, and I saw something moving in the woods. I told my uncle, and he said it was probably just an animal. And I told him no, it was tall and looked like a skinny lady. And he said I have a creative imagination and it was probably just a deer. But then a few minutes later, I heard my aunt and uncle whispering in the kitchen. My aunt was talking about a woman from the psychiatric hospital in their town who had escaped. Their house was like 15 minutes away from a maximum security psychiatric hospital for criminals with mental illness. And then they saw me listening to them in the doorway and they stopped talking completely. A few days later, in the middle of the night, I heard a noise downstairs.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let a female student use the bathroom? I know the title makes me look like a major asshole, but hear me out. I, male 46, work at a high school as a PE teacher. Recently, I noticed that a student of mine, let's call her A, stopped participating in class and her excuse would always be the same. She'd say, "Mr. Smith, I'm on my period. Can I please use the bathroom?" This carried on every PE lesson for 1 month when our unit was dancing and I had to give each student a mark. She would leave for 45 minutes and was behind everyone. I had nothing to grade her on and was getting increasingly annoyed. So this time when she asked, I just snapped. I said, if you're on your period this often, multiple times in 2 months, I think you need medical help.
Story time about how I'm in love with my sister's boyfriend and I think he likes me too. Actually, no, I know so because he kissed me 3 days ago. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. The story I'm about to tell you guys is pretty bad, so please don't comment me in the comments. I swear I'm a good girl. A little backstory, my sister and I have never really gotten along. She's 3 years older than me and thinks she's the queen of the house. And she's always seen me as competition, which I hate. My mom would always try to make us get along, but it was totally impossible. My sister was always upset at something I did. Eventually, I stopped trying with my sister and I wouldn't make any effort to make her like me. Finally, last year she moved out and I was so happy. We celebrated my 20th birthday at home last year, and of course my sister came over, but she brought this really cute boy with her. Let me tell you guys, it was instant love at first sight. I can't even explain what I felt, I just knew that I liked him. Even my mom made a comment about how good looking he was. And can I just say that I caught him staring at me a few times throughout the dinner. After that, I never really saw him because my sister and I never hung out. Until my sister lost her job because of COVID and had to move back in with us. And this meant that I was seeing her boyfriend a lot more.
My husband asked me for an open marriage because he wasn't attracted to me anymore. About 1 year ago, my husband, 48 male, told me, female 39, that he wasn't sexually attracted to me anymore. I kind of understood that because since our son, male 4, was born, he hadn't had sex with me. He said he loved me more than anything in the world and that the rest of the relationship was perfect, but he needed to have sex or he would go crazy. I was taken aback, but I started asking him about the definition of an open marriage and we discussed it over a few weeks. To be honest, I was feeling sexually deprived and the idea started to grow on me. I said yes and asked if there were any rules. He said that usually every couple has their own rules. So our rules is no bringing them home and using protection. My husband was also very clear that he also wanted to know who the other persons were and when. The when was to plan our days. He was meeting new women within a week. He told me everything, showed me pictures, and was gone most of the nights. Not gonna lie, I felt like shit, but I thought that I needed to give it time. I was more careful, however, because I needed to know the people that I had sex with and at least had some kind of feelings. But I started to relax more and flirt back with guys. One of them is a client, Jay, male 36, at the bank that I work for. Not my client, but he sees me often and he's always been pleasant and extra chatty with me. Now, I started flirting about a month ago and I finally decided that I was ready to start sleeping with others. I told Jay about my arrangement. He was disappointed at first, but he said that he was in. I went home to my husband and asked him if he was going to do anything that Friday and he said no. I told him that it was good because I needed him to be with the children. I showed him Jay and told him that I was meeting him Friday. He was silent. Friday came and my husband texted me that he was stuck at work and he later was going to meet a girl so he couldn't watch the children. This continued. Every time I fixed a date with Jay, he would do the same and leave me with the children. I don't mind spending time with my children, but I was getting annoyed. Anyway, last Monday I had no meetings at work after lunch, which often means that I don't need to stay in place. I texted Jay if he wanted to meet and he was at home. My children are in daycare. I went to his place and it was amazing. I have missed this so much. The feeling that I'm desired and someone's eyes on me is filled with lust for me and my body. When I got home, I told my husband and he was livid because I didn't tell him beforehand. I broke a rule. I told him that I didn't. He knew that I was seeing this guy and that I've been trying to make time. Anyway, he didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. He woke me up in the middle of the night with gentle kisses and touches and we had sex 3 times. This was the first time in almost 5 years and we've had sex every night since. Now he's saying that he's attracted to me again and that's why we need to close the marriage again, but I don't want to. I like having other options and we're not hurting anyone. What should I do?
The teacher looked around the classroom to see me at my desk, mispronounces my name again, and I give her no response again. Teacher says my name louder this time. Have you forgotten the rules of my class? You are to respond with present when I call your name. Me nervously. Still wasn't all that great at sticking up for myself yet. Your rules say that we're supposed to say present after our name is being called. My name has not been called. Don't start to get smart with me, mispronounces my name again. That's not my name, it's... She cuts me off at this point. That's it, I'm not putting up with this. Go to the office. Almost in tears, I head to the office, unsure of what I had done or in what kind of trouble I would be in. But here's the kicker. In between my freshman and sophomore year, we had got a new vice principal. This new VP was Hispanic as well and was fully aware of the counseling I was taking. I later found out that she was very active in the community and was one of the city leaders in pushing for Hispanic rights and achievements and advancements. So I walk into the office and she is the first one to greet me. I tell her what had happened and see her face slowly turn red with anger. She then attempts to regain her control and tells me to go to her office and work on homework until the next class period. That she will talk to the teacher and to not have to worry about her. The next day I walk into class again, unsure of what to expect. The teacher simply begins her class without calling attendance and makes no acknowledgement of me. This continues for a week until we are informed that the teacher and the school board have agreed that she will be taking an early retirement before the end of the school year and that we will finish off the class with a substitute teacher for the remainder of the year. There was a little over a month left in the year, so it ended up just being movies before a watered down final exam on the last week. Of course, the rumors through the school were that she was forced out and did not receive her full retirement, but I cannot confirm if any of those are true. I never saw her again and went through the rest of my high school career slowly growing my confidence. But let me know, am I the jerk?
I just caught my best friend and her mom talking shit about me. I decided to drop out of college to follow my dreams to be a model. They were saying that I was just throwing my life away. Who's gonna tell them?